Flying Pikachu VMAX. Having that big lightning attacker, he thinks that it's going to completely unstoppably put this matchup in his favor. We know that Andrew Mahone has been doing a ton of mad science to Mew VMAX. It's like a favorite deck that he loves to play, and after, the London double turbo style of Mew VMAX kind of hit the scene, it's opened up so much room in the list to have a ton of utility.
And now we did see the prizes for Andrew, and unfortunately his only way to attack with Flying Pikachu VMAX, that Speed Lightning Energy, is prized, along with 2 double Turbo Energy as well. So just getting an attack off might be a little difficult for Andrew this game.
Yeah, the deck can draw a lot of cards, but if you can't complete your setup and actually put down some threat, get a Pokemon attacking, your prize cards are going to be completely sealed off. Running such a thin line, you need those 3 specific cards in order to get off that attack. It could come back to haunt him, but Caleb Gedemer is going to go first here. Oranguru in the active spot, already uses that Primate Wisdom, finds the Lugia V, just attached for the turn and pass. Andrew Mahone now with Genesect V in the active spot. A lot of item cards and supporters in the hand. He's going to have to do a lot of work to thin this down and keep drawing.
Indeed, Andrew's hand a little on the awkward side. They might end up leading with that Judge, and I'm very surprised that Caleb didn't go out of his way to discard at least 1 Arceus. I mean, they did have a bunch of Ultras and Quick Balls, so they were going to have to discard a lot of stuff, but I don't know. I feel like taking advantage of those resources that you already have in this matchup, right, where Mew is known for playing a lot of hand disruption, and it's not even Marnie, which you can protect against with Oranguru, it's actually Judge. So surprised at that decision, but having a Lugia down with a powerful energy, always a good way to start off the game, because you know that 1 Lugia V wants to KO 1 Mew VMAX, and then you want to use Yveltal for the next one.
And with the double Ultra Ball, Andrew Mahone has indeed thinned down this hand quite substantially. Second Genesect V found and put onto the bench. Back when players were figuring out how do we stop Lugia V, we were trying all kinds of lightning attackers, and there was that moment in time where players just said, I'm just going to try to meet it blow for blow, a deck that's equally as powerful, and get that Mew V down.
Now, very interesting that Andrew, I don't believe he took that much time looking through his deck to figure out any sort of prize cards or anything. I'm sure he noticed the Flying Pikachu was there, but I don't know if the Speed Energy is something that they might have noticed if it's still there. But we're going to see the first Genesect, and this is a decision where the sequencing becomes very crucial. Yeah, Andrew not necessarily playing the Judge immediately, drawing a few cards first, might choose to, use the second Genesect. So these sort of decisions can sometimes make or break a game.
And when you use the tablets early like this to thin your hand down, you don't have that extra oomph to get over, the V-Guard energy and stuff like that on the Lugia V-Star. So Andrew might already be sculpting his line around the Flying Pikachu, is looking through the deck here, can see that the Speed Lightning is in the prizes, and just needs to find a way to get 1 or 2 prizes and cross his fingers to get that final attacker that's really going to shift the matchup in his favor.
Yeah, looks like Andrew realizing that they don't have access to the Speed Energy, just not going to even try for the Flying Pikachu. No need to establish it. It does hurt him in the amount of cards that Genesect will draw later on. So just going 4 Genesect, 2 Mew VMAXs, and Caleb now has a very clear path to victory with the double KO on Mew VMAX. But we'll have to see if he can actually get there, because the disruption that Andrew plays with Path to a Peak, with Judges, and with Roxanne could be a big detriment to Caleb's strategy.
And when you force your opponent not only to have those key cards, but have to execute that entire combination in 1 turn, because you can't, fish up the cards and then wait to your next turn to employ them. But there's another Judge after the Path to the Peak has entered play. Andrew Mahone just going to draw back up to 4, doesn't need to draw any more with the Genesect Vs, and is hoping that this will be enough to keep Caleb Gedemer's Lugia deck under wraps until he gets a more dominant position.
Now, Andrew does play quite a few outs to getting rid of the Path to a Peak. They do play 2 Lost Vacuum and, of course, 2 Forest Seal Stone, which they can utilize to search for any of those outs, as well as 2 Lost Cities. So we'll have to see if this ends up hurting him or not. But Caleb's setup was already not ideal, very slow, and they do get the Ultra Ball with the double Arceus.
My lord, the Judge delivereth the Ultra Ball double Archeops. We just have to get we need to get Lugia V-Star, and we have to find a way to get this Path to the Peak out of play so we can use that Summoning Star ability. Primate Wisdom. Oh my goodness! The Primate Wisdom finds the card. I think there's just enough resources in hand to put this all together.
Caleb could not have asked for a better card off of that Oranguru. They'll be able to utilize Luminion after getting rid of that Pathway Peak, get a fresh new hand with Research. That was a dream come true for Caleb. Like, if you draw those 4 cards, you look at them, and off of the judge, then you're pretty sad, but now you're pretty chill. And you can even see Andrew's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you got that double Arceus off the discard.
Oh my goodness, a wild play.
Wow.
I've got to say, Pablo, I think that Oranguru is the absolute pound for pound MVP of Lugia V. Whenever it seems like they're in a tight spot, you need one specific card in order to bring the rest of the turn together. The Primate Wisdom comes through big, bumps the path. Luminion V's Luminous Sign finds the Professor's Research. 7 new cards into the hand.
Now, what will Caleb draw here? If they find the Lugia V-Star and a way to take a KO, like, that was definitely not something you'd expect after seeing their very slow turn 1 of just bench attach pass, right? But I think we're actually going to see that. We see the double Arceus, and I think they do have enough to get a KO here.
Yeah, Andrew Mahone said that this was going to be a 90-10, and Caleb is definitely living in the 10% zone right now. Lugia V-Star now propped up with the Summoning Star. Archeops in play. The Primal Turbos are coming online. This Genesect V's days are numbered. Just have to get this Oranguru out of the active spot.
Yep, and with the double turbo being available, they should be able to. Now, Caleb did prize 1 double turbo and 1 powerful energy. That powerful energy is not super impactful because they still need the choice spell to KO through Mew VMAX, and of course Andrew is not playing Oricorio to reduce the damage, so might or might not come into play, but that double turbo could be impactful if we do see Yveltal come into play at some point.
Yeah, you have to give up the early double turbo to get this Oranguru out of the active. This is the downside. You know, the upside, of course, seeing that extra card can just be make or break a turn, but if this does get stranded in the active, it does become a bit of a headache to have to use one of your primal turbos to get this out of there.
I'm really surprised Caleb didn't just commit that 3rd powerful energy to the active instead of the capture, because like with 1 powerful left over in the deck, it's not really helping you too much with any of your other attackers, but I mean, he might be planning something. I just really like keeping that resource of the capture energy as a capture energy because it can search for whatever you might need, and we might see a lot of deck thinning right now from Caleb, just to make sure that the future judges and Roxanne are not as impactful.
Evolution Incense finds Archeops, Quick Ball to discard it, find Lugia V, and this is just going to go immediately onto the bench, emptying the hand down, and there is the knockout. Tempest Dive comes through, and that's 2 prizes for Caleb Gedemer. Andrew Mahone responding immediately with the with the Power Tablet and the Mew VMAX Evolution. 3 Genesect V still to be used in the hand. There's a Serena. Going to just discard that with the Ultra Ball, thinning all the way down to 1, potentially 0, and is going to fill all the way back up with Fusion Strike System. A lot of cards going to be seen this turn, Pablo, but what specifically is Andrew looking for?
I mean, with the 2 energies being in their prizes, they're really looking for their double turbo or at least Chromomatics to have a chance at finding them. Yeah, it's not guaranteed that they'll be able to find them, so they need to maximize that draw, right? That's why we see them not playing that Serena. They would love to also be able to get Disruption going with Temple of, not Temple of Sinnoh, with Path to Peak and potentially Judge, but they really need to maximize their potential to get that double turbo. Otherwise, if you're not attacking, then you're not winning.
So 6 cards going to be drawn here, and one of these needs to be double turbo or a way to find it. The first Fusion Strike System comes through. There's Flying Pikachu VMAX and Escape Rope. Forest Seal Stone's also a great option here.
Yep, Forest Seal Stone will be able to guarantee a double turbo, but now that Andrew has that, they must be thinking, okay, so at least attacking is the bare minimum I need to do. What else do I need to do? And that's get enough power tablets going in order to take a KO. And that means finding all 3 power tablets left over plus a choice belt. But we do see that 1 power tablet has been utilized in the first turn and 1 is prized. So it's not possible to get a KO this turn.
And Andrew was really hesitating to get rid of this Escape Rope, but hits that heads on the Cramomatic, is going to be able to save that Star Alchemy for a future turn potentially. and grabs the double turbo energy. We've seen it, however, where sometimes players will sit on the Star Alchemy a little bit too long, then your opponent gets that boss KO and denies the Forest Seal Stone. So there is a chance that Andrew might give a little bit of respect and just use that Star Alchemy right away just to find one more card to top off this turn.
Yep, I think I don't know if Andrew has fully checked. I think like he's playing at a very good pace, very fast pace. I'm not sure if he knows that that last power tablet is indeed priced, or maybe he already knows, and that's why he's not even bothering to try and go for that KO, because obviously he can't. He might choose to go after the Luminion on the bench. He's now searching for that flying Pikachu, but just gets immediately discarded. So not going to see that come into play just yet.
Yeah, he's given up on that line, as you talked about, Pablo. You want to get that flying Pikachu V like down on turn 1 to try to head off Lugia V-Star or have an easier way to get through this. I imagine that Andrew's inspiration for teching in that lightning attacker is just being in situations like this consistently, of having to find all of the power tablets under the sun in order to get through that V-Guard energy. Yep. And another judge.
Yeah, we do see the slight disruption of the judge, which of course cannot be played around with Oranguru's ability. Oranguru does let you access that one extra card after the judge, but there's no way to save a resource that you might need off of it. But Caleb has already used their V-Star ability. They don't have space for Luminion, so they're not really disrupting them too much. And with this Lugia guaranteeing to survive, then Caleb just needs a choice build in order to continue applying pressure and take a knockout on this Mew, or even a Boss Disorder Source Arena to get further into closing out this match.
Caleb only on one choice belt, has Professor's Research in the hand and Primate Wisdom to give a little bit of help to get that knockout. That's going to be 3 prizes coming through off of the Mew VMAX going down. And even if Andrew Mahone can respond to get the revenge knockout on the Lugia V-Star, it's still so many attacks and resources into this 2-star Pokemon. It might be too little too late.
To say Caleb has been drawing well off of this judges would be an understatement. They have the boss, they got a research, and they can save the evil doll that they also drew with Oranguru to make sure that they don't discard it, right? So now Caleb has a lot of ways to potentially win this game. They can just bypass this Mew, take another 2 prizes, and then it's on Andrew to find a big parcel to try and protect. But even then, that might not be enough.
The rumor started long ago, you know, Marnie's not real, Roxanne's not real, and now maybe Judge is no longer real. When you go up against players of this caliber, they just have that extra little bit of draw luck. They get the card they need when they need it, and there doesn't seem to be anything that can stop them. Beautiful double Primal Turbos coming through, setting up the next batch of attackers to take over for this Lugia V-Star once it goes down. And one more Primate Wisdom for the road. Double Turbo also recovered. Boss's orders to bring up the Genesect with the Forest Seal Stone, denying that additional out. Andrew didn't use this item right away, and he's just going to take 2 more prizes here. Lugia V-Star still remaining in the active as a threat that must be responded to.
Yep, as you very well mentioned earlier, that Forest Seal Stone not getting any use, and now it's gone forever. And Andrew, in a very tough spot, no prizes taken, will be taking 2, but because there's no VMAX or anything in play that they can take advantage, at best they're going to be winning in 2 more attacks after this one, whereas Caleb has plenty of time to set up a KO, has all the necessary energy available for Yveltal, so Andrew really needs to pull off something here. Really needs the Judge to finally stick, or needs to recover the Roxanne and needs the Roxanne to stick.
All right, we've got one more Judge in the hand. We did find the second Forest Seal Stone. Attaches double turbo energy to the second UV Max. There's the Forest Seal Stone. One more Judge, and then the Star Alchemy, or what? One more card does Andrew need? We just get the knockout on Lugia V-Star, but it's just a hope and a prayer between getting the second Lugia V-Star, a couple Primal Turbos. Is it going to just need to be a... I don't know if Andrew can stop anything here.
I mean, with the big parcel, they can stop the Yveltal. That's how they can potentially prevent Caleb from winning, but without a path to a peak in play, they can't stop a simple Luminion into boss, right? So
yeah,
the fact that Andrew, as we saw in the previous match, Andrew will play the Roxanne hopefully, or might play the Judge, whatever they do. Caleb doesn't need to win next turn. right? So that gives you extra time to draw those cards that you need to win, gives you extra time to use Oranguru to access those cards, and Caleb very smartly thinned their deck by 3 cards, the Powerful, the Wash, and the Capture Energy on the Archeops and the Lugia, so that's less bad cards that they will draw after they get disrupted, increasing their chance of finding the right cards that they need to close out this game.
So Indeed employs that Star Alchemy, gets the PAL pad, shuffles the supporters back in, is still trying to set up a proper line to find the prize map. Lugia V-Star is going to offer up 2, Luminion V is offering up 2 more, and it's going to be just hopefully Mew VMAX holding the fort down before Caleb can find that boss into a knockout to get his remaining 2 prizes.
And we see the Judge, not the Roxanne, so Caleb gets an extra 2 cards off of that. And not what you want to see as Andrew, but even if Andrew ends up losing this game, we should still have plenty of time. These matches do go by pretty quickly, as they are rulebox Pokemon against rulebox Pokemon, so we should be seeing a full 3 games if it comes to that, I feel.
Yeah, Andrew just going for the Judge probably to shuffle the deck, try to outplay that Primate Wisdom, and it's going to be up to Caleb Gedemer. He's top decked out of every single Judge thus far, still has access to the Oranguru, so 1 more card to be seen. Caleb hesitating here on the promotion. Do you just want to promote the Lugia V now or fully commit?
Well, I mean, now the Judge has finally heard Caleb. Their hand is 4 useless cards. They don't have the win just yet. They do have their top deck. They also have access to Oranguru to look at another card, but they don't have the win yet, so they're definitely reconsidering what to do at this point. And by sending the Luminion back into the deck, you open up the potential to top deck that Luminion to find the boss winning play. So I think that's what's on Caleb's mind, along with deck thinning as much as possible in this particular turn.
So finally, with that disruption happening, and Caleb, you know, you have to promote your Pokemon first. You have to make that bet. Do I just want to promote the Lugia V because I know I'll get the V-Star, or just put the Luminion V and just commit to the Aqua return with the Primal Turbo, just as you already talked about, Pablo, has a massive buffer and just needs to reach out and take 2 more prizes. And when we look over at Andrew Mahone's board, there's 2 Mew VMAX in play. Both are set up with the double turbos. If Caleb goes for the Aqua return, maybe tries to set up here.
Yep, and there's the Ultra Wall, so now Caleb, I believe, has everything they need in order to set up the Yveltal. They have the Aurora energies and the double turbo that they unlocked off the prize cards. They have the energy to retreat, so that Oranguru once again coming in clutch. Yeah, once again coming clutch, finding the exact card that Caleb needed in order to win him this game number 1.
Beautiful sequence, just top decking like a true hero to get out of every sticky situation, taking the knockouts. You can see it on his face. It looks like a walk in the park for Caleb Gedemer, going up 1-0, and Andrew Mahone's going to try to now get victory off the back of Flying Pikachu VMAX, the tech that he prepared for this matchup, but it's only a 1-1 line. Not only does he need Flying Pikachu VMAX, he needs the Speed Lightning. This card got stranded in the prizes, and it was too much for him to dig down and get that. He's running also 1 copy of the Hisuian Heavy Ball. You'd much rather that Flying Pikachu V be in the prizes.
Exactly, and now going first definitely changed the dynamic of this matchup quite a bit. Caleb will now need to be extra careful, bench 2 Lugia Vs. Andrew will have the initiative, will probably be the one to take the first 2 prizes, and I certainly think that that first Judge completely changed the game. Yeah, Caleb actually didn't have a fantastic hand in order to get the turn to Lugia, but then he got judged into the perfect hand to get the turn to Lugia, and I think that definitely took Andrew by surprise. And that's what changed the whole dynamic of this game. If Caleb just draws any 1 different card off of that first Judge, then the game would have been completely different and probably a lot closer. But I do feel like Andrew should be a little bit more favored in this particular instance going first. It just changes so much.
Yeah, and Andrew, of course, has been playing Mew and has been a huge advocate for running Judge in this deck, specifically to disrupt the Orangurus, to disrupt Lost Box. And he's probably seen it all before. He knows that sometimes your opponent does get locked down, sometimes they still draw quite well. And when we head into game number 2, maybe the luck falls a bit more in his favor. VMAX, a couple Cramomatics hitting the prizes looks a bit troublesome for those early mid-game turns where you're trying to look for specific cards and thin down, but overall, nothing hurting him too much. Radiant Charizard, the Heat Fire, and one Archeops. A couple quick balls in the prizes for Caleb could make the start a little slower.
Yeah, it definitely could, but definitely nothing super impactful for both of these players. The path to peak could make it a little more awkward for Andrew Mahone to get like a really good turn to lockdown after a judge, but outside of that, I expect to see a lot more cleaner game, and with this Battle VIP pass just being drawn immediately, I also foresee we might see Flying Pikachu VMAX, but mostly because there's one important thing that Caleb didn't show Andrew in the first game, and that's Dunsparce. Yeah, Caleb is playing the Dunsparce, which makes the Flying Pikachu a lot less effective.
Yeah, it kind of fell out of favor for a bit, and I think that especially after Lugia V-Star decks taking big events back to back, the other Lugia players have to understand that they have a much bigger target on their back and adapt accordingly. Quick Ball discards a Lost City and is looking here. Double checking the hand. Flying Pikachu V is pulled to the front. Decides to grab a Genesect first. There's two more Cramomatics in the hand. It's a tough decision. Do you like the second Genesect, or you just want to get the Flying Pikachu V?
I mean, with the extra resource of the Ultra Wall, I feel like I do like the Flying Pikachu V, but because Andrew already committed an energy to the Mew, Flying Pikachu V cannot attack next turn, right? Because it does require 2 turns to being fully powered up. So I feel like Andrew is better served just maximizing the amount of draw cards that he can get right now. Because Flying Pikachu, of course, is great, but missing that turn 1 attachment on it means at best it can attack on turn 3, and what you really want to do as Andrew right now is get a KO on a Lugia this turn and force Caleb to bench a second one at the very least.
Yeah, and it does feel bad for sure to like have this tech prepared specifically for the matchup, and then a couple games you have to leave it by the wayside. Focus more on the initial strategy, plan A, of your deck. And as we know from history, that Mew VMAX still has a very powerful plan A indeed. First Genesect V comes through, draws a few more cards, just going to retreat into the second Mew V, protecting that double turbo energy against any shenanigans. It's back over to Caleb. Lugia V in the active spot, couple Boss's Orders in the hands, couple Luminions, looking very awkward. Nothing too apparent really to do this turn, but is that a Rangaroo I see here to save the day once again?
It is. It seems like Oranguru could come into play big time once again, and this hand is definitely very awkward for Caleb because you want, obviously on turn 1, you want to research to get as much cards as you want, as you can, rather, in order to get those Archeopses in the discard pile. But there's also so many good resources, especially those 2 Boss's Orders in Caleb's hand, that perhaps you like think again before you discard absolutely everything, right? You might not need Boss's Orders if you're just attacking Mew VMAX because that's always the Pokemon that's in front. So there's merit into discarding them, but it's definitely a very aggressive approach, and Caleb will choose, it seems, the more conservative approach off of that Marnie.
Yeah, the Marnie is great to put these resources back into the deck so we can kind of avoid the terrible downside of going for the research. And the Boss's Orders is so key. It came up huge in game number 1 to take out that first Forest Seal Stone, really force Andrew to dig deeper to have those proper resources for the turn, and saving these for the late game where you're able to maybe bring up a Mew VMAX and just get that massive KO is going to be so important. Caleb absolutely has to save these and shuffle them back into the deck, but does not bench the Oranguru first.
Indeed, I think Caleb recognizes that bench space might be at a premium here, especially if Lugia in the active doesn't get KO'd, and that does mean that he might need Pump Kaboot to counter a Path to a Peak, or he might need to set up the right attacker, right? And if you're filling up your bench with 2 Archeops and a Pump Kaboot, then all of a sudden you can't use Vivoltol, or you can't use Charizard, or any of the single price Pokemon that could also be really good here. So we'll have to see what Caleb, or how Caleb approaches the bench space, but now he's eyeing the Oranguru with the capture energy.
So that was his plan all along, was to get the Oranguru out. Because Andrew doesn't have the Flying Pikachu V down yet with the attachment of a double turbo, that threat isn't quite there. Caleb's still going to offer a little bit of respect by benching the second Lugia V, and Oranguru is indeed found.
You can see how, like, the decision is not straightforward, right? Like, it's not always bench Oranguru because it's good, because you have it, whereas now that Caleb saw the cards that he had in his hand, now he knows to, he needs the resource of Oranguru, but in the previous hand, because he didn't know what he was going to get, then he wanted that bench space open. So there's so many like micro things that can change your decision making, and then all of a sudden Oranguru becomes the best Pokemon to bench at that point.
Wow, and Caleb even discarding the Dunsparce with Read the Wind is not afraid of the Flying Pikachu whatsoever. I have Oranguru to stop the Judge. I've got this Lugia V with the Choice Belt on it, so I'm prepared for Mew VMAX. And after that, Lumineon into the Marnie, getting those boss's orders back into the deck, Caleb is fully prepared for the rest of this to play out. Andrew Mahone now opening up with Ultra Ball, going to discard that Flying Pikachu V, and it's just a showdown of classic meta Titans at this point. Mew VMAX versus Lugia V-Star. Andrew Mahone is going all in on just Plan A, not employing the tech, and is just going to hope that Mew comes through.
Yeah, the Flying Pikachu no longer a resource, and I must say, like, I feel like Flying Pikachu VMAX definitely has a much more impactful presence in any sort of Lost Box matchup or Reggie matchup, which is usually really bad for Mew VMAX, because, of course, you need to take a prize card against them every single turn. But if you're doing it with Mew VMAX, you expose yourself to the 3-prize turn, whereas Flying Pikachu VMAX causes a lot more problems, right? So I'm not surprised Andrew gives up on the Flying Pikachu VMAX. It's like, if on turn 1 you have a really good opportunity to use it, you go for it. But if not, then you just give up on it, and it's completely fine, right? You're still a 57-card Mew VMAX deck that's really, really good.
That's a sound analysis. I agree that you don't want to force the issue. You're just, if it presents itself, especially with Battle VIP Pass, tons of Genesect, tons of draw, go for it. But now, just playing it much more chill, getting the Mew Vs set up, Mew VMAX now in the active. Still plenty of Fusion Strike systems left to go for this turn. Double checking the discard pile. Furthermore, when you get the Flying Pikachu V down, it's just going to get maybe boss KO'd. So it's a bit riskier, I think, perhaps versus Lugia V. And there's Lost Vacuum, just to get rid of that Choice Belt. Beautifully done. That's going to go to the Lost Zone, and it means that the Mew VMAX is a little bit more resilient, right? You have to attach so many powerful colorless energies just to put up a threat. And if you force Caleb into a line of trying to go for the 2-turn knockout, you do have that Psychic Leap.
Yeah, with no Choice Belt for Caleb, as he only does run 1, there's no way for Caleb to 1-KO Mew VMAX unless they use Yveltal, right? But that's once, right? You know that after you use Yveltal, they're going to knock it out. Like, there's no universe where it survives. So that means Andrew is now guaranteed to at least force Caleb to win in 3 turns, right? The 2-hit KO on the Mew, and then a 1-hit KO with the Yveltal. But that will put Andrew in a situation where maybe we can see some Psychic Leaps happening. It's going to be very interesting to see this dynamic. But the Lost Vacuum is fantastic, and he's also holding a Path to a Peak. And this is the turn where you want to end your attack with the Path to a Peak. That way you make it as hard as possible for Caleb to be able to use Summoning Star next turn.
Another Fusion Strike system and another Quick Ball. Just looking through the deck, it's getting very thin already. And when you get your deck down to this size, it increases the chance that you're going to have the cards you need when you need them. Caleb, and we can get a quick look at the hand. No Pumpkaboo or anything there yet. So it's going to be pretty difficult to deal with this Path to the Peak. We can evolve into Lugia V-Star, but we can't Tempest Dive to get rid of that Stadium. It's just going to sit there and keep him locked down for a couple turns. Judge didn't come through in game 1, but Path to the Peak might be the secret for game number 2.
Yeah, Andrew, the one key card he's missing is a damage modifier, whether it's Choice Belt or whether it's Power Tablet. He really, really needs to be able to take at least 1 KO here. Now that he played the Escape Rope, there's no need for either of those cards. But ideally, he would have preferred to be knocking out a Lugia, but he really just wants to maximize his draw potential here.
All right, so he draws all the way back up, finds another Lost Vacuum, has a Judge in hand, has the Serena, just caps things off with the Path to the Peak. And into a Judge, just a little bit more disruption. And we said that Caleb's hand wasn't too good to deal with Path to the Peak, so this could be another situation where these 4 cards, plus 1 more from a... After the escape rope, right, Caleb has to give up the Oranguru because the Lugia Vs are so important. The Luminion V is also very important to keep the Aqua Returns up and running for your mid-late game ideas. And after the Forest Seal Stone is found, we get Mew VMAX back in the active and one prize over to Andrew Mahone. Lugia V now up, and those double boss's orders back in the hand, just like we saw before. Has to Lost Vacuum, get rid of one. Path of the Peak is now out of the running, and then Professor's Research to discard an Archeops. We have to find Lugia V-Star off of this draw, and I think one more Archeops, if I'm not mistaken, Pablo?
I believe so, yeah. There's only one Archeops in the discard pile. We do see enough pieces for Caleb to get the Lugia V-Star. There's an Archeops, there's an Incense, there's an Ultra Ball, so he will be able to get this off. And I believe he will also be able to pull off the Yveltal right here if it's available in his deck. So very, very impressive turn once again by Caleb at the cost of the two bosses orders. But as we've said, Andrew only has one attacker, Mew VMAX. And if Mew VMAX is not in the active, then that means Andrew didn't attack. And if Andrew didn't attack, then he's not getting closer to winning. So even though that boss's orders discard might look like it hurts, it's actually pretty fine in this situation.
Evolution Incense picks up that Archeops to be more fodder for the Ultra Ball to find Lugia V-Star. Summoning Star is going to come through, bring Archeops from the discard pile back onto the bench immediately. And you can use that ability Primal Turbo to look through the deck, find 2 special energies per Primal Turbo to attach to a Pokemon of your choosing. Caleb's just reevaluating the energies that are in hand, what's exactly left in the deck. No Yveltal found, however. Just going to power up this Lugia V-Star, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the quick ball, so he's choosing not to use Yveltal. And I understand that it is difficult for Andrew to get a KO on a Lugia if they have the V-Guard energy, which is the one that he's eyeing to attach. So Caleb banking a little bit more on resilience in this upcoming turn, 2-hit KOing the first Mew VMAX, and then dealing the final blow with Yveltal.
Yeah, there's only one Heat Fire, one powerful colorless energy in the prizes for Caleb, so he's trying to map around what energy is available a little bit here. And I suppose if you've got Lugia V-Star in the active, might as well get some use out of it. There's the attach of the Double Turbo and V-Guard, Capture Energy, and we just need a little bit more. There's the Tempest Dive now coming through. 200 damage onto Mew VMAX, and it's back over to Andrew Mahone.
Now, even though it is unlikely for Andrew to get the 1K on this Lugia, it is possible, I believe. There's no power tablets have been used yet, no choice build has been lost, and nothing is priced in terms of denying that. So, I don't know. I mean, I understand the play. No matter what, you need to 2-hit KO one Mew VMAX and 1 KO the next with Yveltal. But this gives Andrew some time to pull off like a late game Roxanne plus big parcel protection on the Mew. So if you're choosing to not take advantage of the KO right there on the Yveltal, with the Yveltal, then it might be a little more difficult once you have to deal with that big parcel. I don't know. I feel like I would personally choose to take advantage of the fact that there's no big parcel to deal with guaranteed just yet, and I would have taken that line, but we'll have to see how this plays out.
Yeah, Andrew's just opting for the classic thinning is winning. Just going for the Crematic, finding the pieces you want. There's one power tablet already used this turn, so he's committing to this line, right, to get through the V-Guard energy. A lot still has to line up to make it happen, however.
Indeed.
Deciding what to get off the Cram.
The Ultra Ball to further thin, establish the second Mew VMAX, and then maximize the draw off of the Genesect seems to be the choice for Andrew, as getting one power tablet off of that, there's no guarantee that you'll find everything else that you need, right? So establishing that second Mew VMAX, applying pressure to the board, and then maybe you chance into all the power tablets off of some big Genesects afterwards.
Yeah, this is a little bit risky, right, with the Mew VMAX. We can maybe get the big KO this turn. After thinning down with the Ultra Ball, failing that, the deck is so thin, and there's 3 more Fusion Strike systems to be had. Drawing into the power tablets and getting the knockout means you have this damaged Mew VMAX in the active. That'll be 3 prizes over to Caleb without having to put too many resources into doing so.
Interesting that Andrew chose to discard the Judge here. I'm not sure what card was the one that they kept in her hand. Okay, Lost City and Double Turbo. So they're just, okay, so they're going for the draw, but I don't know, the Lost City feels, I'm not sure. I mean, I think I would have preferred to keep the Judge just to guarantee my draw, right? I know you're giving an extra card to your opponent, but if you're getting everything you need, then it's worth it. But there's another Judge.
So Andrew is definitely, playing a very, audacious game, I would say here. Just trusting that the Genesect V is going to draw into a lot of these missing pieces with the deck so thin. You can just, every time you can spread it, it looks like just a solid Lost Box hand with just a few cards. And you can make maybe some rough calculations about, 3 out of 7, 5 out of 10. What am I going to draw here? And Andrew's probably been in this situation over and over, of thinning the deck down so far that Fusion Strike system almost guarantees either the card you want or a way to get it.
All right, I think that gets Andrew there. He still has his V-Star, and he got Choice Belt and the third power tablet. So he does need all 4, and he needs the Choice Belt. Now the question becomes, do you take the KO with the clean Mew VMAX or with the regular Mew VMAX? But yeah, Andrew got this KO. He'll be down to 3 prize cards, putting the pressure on Caleb. But since it is a VMAX deck, Caleb only needs 2 attacks to win the game. So Andrew not out of the woods yet.
So it's 1 out of 6 to get that last power tablet we just saw. He still needs some cards left over so he doesn't deck out. But the Choice Belt is indeed in the hand. We've got the Judge as well.
He does need that, but he does have the Force Seal Stone to guarantee it, right?
Oh,
So
oh my God, that's right. He does have, okay.
There's no way to whiff at this point. I'm surprised Andrew didn't attach the Choice Belt right there. And I mean, if you can keep the Force Seal Stone out active, then that's good enough. But we're going to see him activated right now to grab that last power tablet off the deck.
And there it is. Is that 2 cards?
Yep, 2 cards left. Pulpet and Flying Pikachu VMAX, which is pretty fine, right? Like, you only need 2 more turns to win this game if you're Andrew. You need 2 turns to win this game if you're Caleb. So decking out, even though it looks like it, and I've personally seen a lot of players get very nervous when their deck is very low. But as long as you're doing it right, then it should never happen to you, honestly.
And especially with the Judge, shuffle your hand back in. Still got a little bit of reload there. And he is using the fresh Mew VMAX, the undamaged one. Big Parasol attached to this. And with the 4 power tablets, it is going to be the knockout. Doesn't need the help of the Choice Belt.
Yep.
And it's going to go to the Lost Zone.
Yeah, I think I miscalculated myself the damage a little bit.
I was trying to crunch the numbers too, but...
Okay, so this is really good for Andrew. He knows Caleb is down to Boss's Orders from the information that he got from last turn. The active Mew has a big Parasol, so it's protected from potentially Yveltal. But Caleb is holding the Lost Vacuum, so yeah, I was going to be very surprised by that Lugia promotion. Caleb has the KO with Yveltal here, I believe. I don't know if maybe I'm missing something, but I believe he has it.
With the Heat Fire in the prizes, maybe there's just a slight tax here. Maybe the Auroras are already down. There was no Auroras discarded.
Yeah, I don't recall
because he didn't have to play the research earlier. He went for the Marnie,
Indeed.
Kept all the energies in the deck.
What? I mean,
Caleb is got the Raikou now. He's trying to set something very specific up. There's the 2 Auroras, 3 Auroras,
and the double turbo, and he has the quick ball for. I mean, this line also works. You get the knockout on the bench Mew VMAX, and you establish the damage on the Mew. I guess, yeah, that actually makes sense. You get the knockout on the Mew VMAX on the bench, and you do some damage to the active. To that, you don't need to rely on the 2 KO. But I don't know what the big difference is in terms of resources, if you will. If you use Yveltal this turn, then you only need to deal with a damaged Mew VMAX. I guess there's the Psychic Leap potential as well, but with all the power tablets down, then Yveltal was guaranteed to survive. So I don't know. This feels a little, I don't know. Maybe the conservation of the double turbo could come into play. That's a 1 key card. That's the difference between the Raikou and the Yveltal right now.
So the double turbo, we'll see if Caleb making the bet on saving that double turbo will come into play later on for a key retreat if Andrew is forced to maybe boss something up and cross his fingers. But overall, Raikou comes through, gets 3 prizes, and sets up so that the second Mew VMAX is a lot easier to deal with outside of the Yveltal.
Right, you need a big hit on this Mew VMAX now to KO. So if Andrew knocks out the benched Lugia V, what attacker does Caleb have left in order to KO the Mew VMAX? I guess the Radiant Charizard, that would be the way, but then the path to the peak could be something that Andrew utilizes right here, plus a Judge, as we see the Roxanne being prized, and that could potentially limit Caleb's potential to respond to this.
Yeah, there's still one card left in the deck. He can go for a Judge this turn if need be. But doesn't see the line. It looks like Andrew Mahone's just going to go ahead and concede this one. Doesn't have a way to protect the Mew VMAX. And is going to just give it up.
Yeah, I guess he did not have boss's orders left at all. And he couldn't draw the Palpad. It was the last card in the deck. And therefore, he couldn't put back boss. He couldn't draw into it. Couldn't pressure the Lugia. And the Lugia could just finish off the Mew VMAX at that point. And that's the issue with the Mew VMAX decks. You have one attacker, right? And that's it. So you know that your opponent doesn't need boss really to target it down. If it's previously damaged, then it's a big liability. And 3 prizes is half the game lost.
Yeah, that's the danger of playing the Mew VMAX. You have so much draw, so much utility, but the game seems to be over in a flash. Lugia V-Star takes advantage of, again, the Evital. You can hit either, the big numbers you need to get these big KOs with powerful energy, or just sidestep that altogether. It seemed that every time Andrew was in a position to head off one play with Path to the Peak or Big Parasol or Judge, Caleb just responded with the perfect out to keep the pressure on and was constantly pressuring along different lines.
Yeah, that was, I don't know. I mean, that's the issue with VMAX decks. You have access to all of your resources. You also have to heavily discard a lot of your other resources if you don't draw things in the right potential order. Can get a little problematic. If Andrew had a boss there, I think the game would have been a little difficult for Caleb to close out, especially, I don't know. It was definitely a weird situation. And I guess if they're playing boss, then they're not playing Judge. And that means Caleb would have kept his whole hand with all those quick balls and everything. So finding the Charizard would not have been difficult. They did have the Lost Vacuum for Path to Peak. So I don't know. Okay, probably that play was better to do in hindsight. Definitely not the clear path to win the game. I think I would have gone for the Evil Tall right there.
Yeah, and who knows? Like maybe Caleb prepped against Mew VMAX a lot specifically, was maybe anticipating that to be a bit more of a common matchup, and just developed a gut instinct of Raikou generally better to employ in situations of that nature. And I do want to give a special shout out, of course, to Andrew for running the Flying Pikachu tech, but not forcing the issue. Sometimes players kind of get tunnel vision